I'm so excited to be welcoming this week for this video, Michael Ball and Daniel Herndon, who are the campus ministers at Mississippi State University in Starkville. When I began interviewing some of our collegiate reaching practitioners, I heard this chorus that you've got to talk to Michael and Daniel. You've got to talk about what God is doing right now at Mississippi State. And being at a church in Southwest Georgia that has an alumnus in our church and has a student right now currently at Mississippi State, I'm just so grateful for what you guys are doing and cannot wait. So thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely. Great.
All right. Well, hey guys, let's just start with that question. Tell me what's happening. Tell me what God is doing on the campus of Mississippi State right now through BSU. And maybe we start there, right? You guys are BSU, Baptist Student Union. Over here, we're Baptist Collegiate Ministries. In Texas, they're Baptist Student Ministries. Out west, they're Christian Challenge. But just so the pastors kind of watching this know and understand, all of those labels are really kind of talking about the same ministry and the same model of ministry. So you guys are BSU, and that is awesome that you've kept that classic name for what we do. But tell us about what God's doing through BSU at Mississippi State.
Plus, you started.
Well, I would say first of all that BSU has it has some core ministries that we would say would be our mission statement is that's been through the years helping students to know Christ and to make Him known. And so there's a certain aspect of BSU involvement that is designed around large group ministry, and then some that is designed around smaller groups and stuff like that. So we're some of the ministries that we're doing currently are ministries that have been done here since 60s, and so I was a student here in the early 80s, and so I have both a student perspective and a staff perspective, and some of those things that we're doing today we did in 1982, and we're done before me. So we do some things that many other campus ministries would do. We have a large group gathering on Tuesday nights. We call that Priority. And that's we have 3 worship bands. They rotate from week to week. We bring in speakers we have a student team that designs kind of the theme of what we'll be studying for the semester. Then on Wednesdays, we have a noonday luncheon. That was started back in the early 70s, I think. June Scoggins, who had served here for 48 years, she helped start that when she was here. And we charge minimally for the meal, trying to cover food costs, but we see that as an opportunity to engage people on the campus with commuters, as well as some students who may not can come on Tuesday night. And it's more of a laid back atmosphere. We've chosen, and we've done it different at different points in times in the season of BSU, but currently we have table leaders, and they lead table discussions that relate to the topic that we talked about the previous night. So we ask those that are speaking to give us 6 to 10 questions that are directed for application. So this semester we've been studying Hebrews 11 and the heroes of the faith. Each week we've studied one of those, and on Wednesday we dive deeper into ways that the students can apply that. Then on Thursdays we have an international hour. This is designed to bring American culture and international students on campus together, and hopefully to build relationships with the hope of sharing the gospel. But that's not always the intent of each of Thursday night. We hope that provides the relationship component to where we can do that. And then our leadership team is made up of 20-something students that we meet weekly with, and they determine a lot of the other options of what we're doing. It may be retreat, it may be fellowship, it may be community missions. We do weekly on Mondays and Tuesdays. We go to a local community center and do tutoring with kids, and then we also have been involved with the nursing home ministry and some things like that, as well as whatever those objects, of ministry that they have a heart and passion for. We try to tailor those. We're currently doing Operation Christmas Child, and some events like that. A real important part of our programming is centered around small groups, and so that is something that we put a lot of effort into at the beginning of our school year with recruiting new students. And so we have a big event called Basic Training. It happens before classes start, and so it's kind of a hub that we want to introduce them to, events in the community, on campus, with the churches. And then they're put in a small group, and they meet in that small group throughout the whole semester. And then many of them continue to meet in the spring semester as well. So that's a vital part of our ministry, is the small group component. And we select and train those leaders in the spring to serve in the fall. And that becomes a backbone of some of our leadership as well.
I think one of the coolest things that I've seen God do as somebody, of coming in, where I served at a smaller community college before I was at Mississippi State as a BSU director. And then I also interned at another university before that, right before I started seminary. But one of the coolest things that I would say is that's one of the things that I've seen Mississippi State, as someone who did not go to school here at Mississippi State, but as someone who's come in and worked here. It has been awesome to see the ownership that students take in small groups, and we call them family groups, and they literally function like a family. I mean, it is the coolest thing to watch and see, because of course, in university, they are cramming classes in wherever students can take them. So just because we have those weekly functions that happen and have a schedule, those family groups meet all throughout the week at all different times. And so that freshmen get placed with freshmen, transfer students get placed with transfers. And then we also have what we call connect groups, which really came out of, it's a model that we've done for a long time here, but it's changed names through COVID, because when COVID hit, Mississippi State came in and said, hey guys, y'all can't meet. You're not meeting. Like, as an organization on campus, you're not going to do that. And so we went, okay, God, like we're leaving this in your hands. And so we really went, if we have 20 small groups come out of our new student activity at the beginning of the year, we are going to be pumped. And so before we knew it, when we added students, like returning students and new students, in the middle of COVID, we had 46 groups with over 460 students meeting in apartments all that fall semester. So, I mean, it was just the coolest thing to watch God work in the lives of students and see them desire community and grow and hang out. And I mean, it is cool to watch them, like Michael has mentioned, some of the things that we do on a regular basis, but see them go, we're going to partner and do Operation Christmas Child together, and you have a group of 10 to 12 students that are bringing in 20, OCC shoeboxes, or in the spring, our only felt like normal outside activity. Nobody had masks, it was so good, was we did a crawfish bowl and a pie auction to raise money for missions. And we ended up raising $4,000 for people buying pies, just because it was students going, we want to support this. And so God has just been really good for even, we were raising money for missions, where in Mississippi, the summer missions program, the summer after COVID, was halted the first time since 1946 that we didn't send summer missionaries. And so last summer, it was a smaller group, that really kind of eased up toward the end of the year. And this year we've seen, summer missions come back to BSU for Mississippi. And we already have 15 students committed from Mississippi State going, hey, I know it's crazy with COVID, but I want to serve all over this globe. So it's been cool to see God just work in those specific instances, especially through COVID, because we've all experienced difference, in our personal lives and especially ministry.
This is what I really wanted moms and dads and pastors like me to hear. when we think about BCM, I know when I was at BSU, when I was heading to Auburn University 100 years ago to be a student, I was told, oh, go to the BCM. They, you'll have pizza and they probably have a ping pong table. But what I've heard from you guys, I mean, just a quick rundown, right? Discipleship, evangelism, leadership development, connecting with local churches, serving the university campus, serving the local community, raising money for missions, mission sending and mobilization. And my guess is you guys could probably do another half hour on everything that your BSU is doing at Mississippi State. And you get to multiply that on all the campuses in Mississippi where you guys have a BSU. And it reminds me of my experience. Michael, you're right. 100 years ago when I was a student, we were doing that stuff too. And I love that legacy. In fact, Michael, I think you're celebrating, am I right, 20 years now in that position on campus at Mississippi State?
Yes.
That is fantastic. In a day and age where I think a lot of the trend and a lot of just kind of the reality is, we see our maybe younger leaders only working with younger students, with younger people. BCM, BSU is one of those places where we see some really long tenured campus ministers and state missionaries working on and alongside students. Michael, what's the benefit of having these just amazingly long tenured leaders, missionaries, ministers in place on campuses?
Well, I think there's several factors, but I think one of them is I think with the longevity, you're able to see not just the present and the future, but you can take a look back and see some of the history and the important part of the history that we've come from, and see, as Baptists, kind of where this was, the whole concept of campus ministry was birthed, not as it was birthed as an outgrowth and a ministry of the local churches, of wanting to see them and felt the importance of seeing ministry happen throughout the week on the campus. And we have the touch with the students. They stop by the building and they're processing life, and they're needing those daily touches of ministry opportunities or intersections a lot of times of some of the stresses and some of the junctures in life where they're asking those questions, seeking answers, and you're there and have a presence. And so I think that helps, of knowing here's where we've come from, and being able to see with some longevity, knowing that there are things and twists and changes that have occurred, but there's a lot of things that may take a little different twist or look, but there's a lot that's the same. I mean, the mission statement, to know Christ and to make him known, is one that has been here and been pounded into students' heads. And we want them to know the events can look different. You can do a barn party and it can be an outreach event, but we aren't just going to do a barn party just to have another event. It needs to serve a purpose for us. And so those kind of things are the ones that we look at and go, how can we be purposeful in what we're doing here at Mississippi State, or on any college campus for that matter, and go, there is a reason for us existing. Otherwise, we're just another club or campus on campus. We want to have Christian significance and purpose to live out our mission here among the students.
As I'm talking to you guys, this is also the first interview I've been able to do where we had both a senior campus minister and an associate. And I know traditionally with BSU and BCM, the model has been on our larger flagship campuses, just with the reality of having more students that, our state conventions, our churches, our associations would provide to make sure that we had multiple missionaries on campus. Now, in an age when there's so much, reduction in funds and needing to reimagine some things, that's not always the case in every state and every setting. But I'm encouraged to see you guys working alongside of each other. So talk for just a minute about the benefits of having two full-time campus ministers on strategic campuses like Mississippi State.
I would say it would be the number of students that are here on our campus. We have at Mississippi State, there's probably 26,000 students. which for some states that's small, for others that's average or even maybe large. But a campus this size, with the number of students that we have that are actively involved, we are heavily dependent upon student volunteers. So our student leadership and development is a critical part, but it's really, it's a job for more than just one person. It would be like having a church staff and you have a church that's 1,200 students or 1,200 people, and you have a senior pastor, nobody else. So I see it as, I'm very blessed that Mississippi Baptists have seen the importance of what we're doing and have valued that to the point of saying we want to equip the campus adequately for the role that's there and the ministry tasks that are there. We believe and we see students are being impacted by ministry, students are being called out, and we see a lot of churches are calling saying we need youth ministers, we need church staff members, and it seems that pool is growing smaller. I hope it's not, but we see one of those parts is that we get to help train some of the local leaders, and we get to help invest in those, and we get to call out. But it's an overwhelming task. At times I feel like we could have 10 more staff members, but we're grateful to at least have 2, and that we don't take that for granted that Mississippi Baptists have said we're providing this, and we know that that's at a cost, but we feel like it's a very valuable one and we are appreciative of it.
So as you guys are working together, working with those, great student leaders that you're raising up, that God's giving you to work with, as you're doing all of those ministries, I mean, just what an array of things you guys are busy doing. How do you define the win? How do you know at Mississippi State, at BSU, when you're winning when it comes to reaching and discipling students?
I think for me that one of the coolest, we joke all the time and say, group me is like one of those necessary evils, of going, my word, August gets here and suddenly I'm a part of 27, or Michael and I both are a part of 27 group me's, and it's going, and you're adding new leaders who are pumped, but they don't realize that somebody else is a part of that, and it's just like boom, 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 one thing after the other. One of the coolest group me's to see is our evangelism team. One of the things that they do is at the very beginning of every semester, they do an evangelism training where they train and they partner students to go out to on campus, and they set a time that works for the 2 of them, and every week they are faithful to go at that time and share Christ on campus. And so what they do is they've created that, and in that group meet, they come back every time they go out and they share in that group meet what their experience was. And some days it's going, man, y'all pray for Joe Smith or whatever, because he didn't want us to pray for him. He didn't want to have conversation. But we've seen that where they go, there are all kinds of emojis going, we have another brother or sister in Christ, and I think that is one of the coolest things, and that's what we're here for. That's what we do it for, is to get these students that no one's reached. They are totally an unreached people group on these campuses that nobody's reaching them. And it's not anybody's specific fault, but it's just that God has placed them on this campus for whatever reason, and students are reaching them and are going, let me tell you about Jesus who changed my life. And so for me, that is or for us, I know that I can answer that for Michael too, to say for the win, those are the things, to read those things and see students passionate about what God's doing in their life. And when students come down and sit down in front of you and go, just when they get it, to go, this is not my life to live, because part of my testimony in college was I wasn't living some crazy life, but I ended up at the school that I did graduate from chasing the pursuits for Daniel, not for the Lord. And I really grasped it. And through BSU and the opportunities that it presented me, God really changed my life and transformed me to really realize what his will looked like for me. And so to sit in front of students and to see them grasp that and go, this world is bigger than me, and God called me and has equipped me, and to see them get it and then to go and just what we say, to know Christ and to make him known, that is the win. To see students come to know him, grow in their faith, and then evangelize and share that, and then go to the uttermost ends of the world, that's it. I mean, that's the win for me.
I was just going to add, Chad, we had several, this was probably 10 years ago. We were taking a leadership team through one of Stanley's books, and it was likening ministry for your organization or your church or ministry group. And it was asking the question, it was likening it to a baseball game, and it's saying, what is the win? And so we let the leadership team wrestle with that and go, let's determine what that is, and we determined it was a changed life for our group. And where was that most likely to occur in our programming? When you walked in the doors at BSU, where would that most likely occur? Some of the obvious points that students would point out, oh, that's in our large group meeting. That's in priority. There's so many people there. That's when people are gathered. The speakers are coming. They're going to be sharing the gospel. And what we really determined was it was not the large group meeting, but it was the small group. And so it became our focus then of saying, how do we get our students plugged into a small group? How do we get them, to plug into a family group? What is the route? How can we get more students plugged in there if they're going to be accountable each week, and they're doing fun events, building community, building that point that they can develop trust with one another, to the point that the guards are coming down and they're willing to share life, and ultimately leaders are able to communicate the gospel, and other group members too as well, to reinforce those Christian principles and ideas. So,
when I hear that as a pastor, right, if I put my pastor hat on, I hear that, I'm pumped, I'm excited, I'm ready to go, I'm wanting to help. So speak to that. What can pastors like me, pastors in your state or pastors in any state, be doing right now to support the work that you guys are doing, that those student leaders are doing on our campuses all across North America?
I say the very first answer is, one, pray. I mean, bathe these campuses, bathe these students, bathe this ministry in prayer, and give. Like, our local budget comes from the local church. I mean, and supporters, individuals. I mean, any individual can give it. And that's where our local budget comes from, of how we do ministry here on the daily basis. And then finally is tell. Tell students, like, we function off of pastors and church leaders and alumni and so on and so forth, to say, hey, go be a part of this. It is important, because we're going to in turn turn around and go, let me tell you about all of these churches that you can be a part of here. And so, like, tell them, go. And because I tell students all the time, you need to come into college and go, I'm going to be a part of this, and I'm going to give everything it takes to do that and commit to that. And so it helps for people to go, let me tell you about my positive experience with BSU or BCM or wherever they're going, whatever it's called there. And that's where pastors help us, is to go be connected. And look, it doesn't take any time. If you get on our website, our cell phone numbers are out there. We are available all the time. Shoot us a text and tell us, connect with students. That's what we want to do. We want to connect. So I think that the ways, for us, for me, what I would tell pastors is, pray for us, commit to tell students about who they are, who we are. And that's how they really get connected and give and help, give where you can. Look, $5 is $5 more than we had before you gave $5. So, that helps us function on a daily basis.
Michael, add to that?
I would just agree wholeheartedly with the connecting part. I feel like the partnership that we want to have with churches, both in our local area, but around the state and around the region, because we get students here, people wouldn't immediately know it, but Mississippi State is one of the few that has a broadcast meteorology or meteorology department. So there's people that come in here, from all different states or whatever. And so it really does help when students are are given that open door before they ever get to campus, that someone has prompted them and said, a pastor, church staff member, youth minister, or an alum, or just a friend that knows about the opportunities that are available and says, hey, there are good ministry opportunities. Here's some good churches. Here's a campus ministry. And we work together in that way. So it really is a great point when we aren't having to first be the one who introduces and says, hey, this is what BSU is on our campus, and here's some opportunities that they've already heard about it, and it clicks with them when they see it. And we encourage people also, the ones that are able to, we say, man, you are welcome to bring a youth group. You're welcome to bring whomever to come, because seeing is a lot better. Selling point is when a youth comes and sees college students freely coming and gathering with other college students for worship, and they see the sincerity of that and the impact, and that it's kids who are going to be future engineers, accountants, businessmen, vet students. I mean, when they see it's people just like them, and that college doesn't have to have the Animal House mentality that sometimes is portrayed, that there are people who are sharp students who are gathering and really giving them their lives to things with meaning and purpose.
Well, and just as we kind of wrap up our time, I just want to say thank you. As a pastor here in this little corner of Southwest Georgia, I actually have an alumni from Mississippi State. I have one student who's currently enrolled at Mississippi State. As a dad, I've got a student who's a rising senior next year. We're going to be coming this summer and touring Mississippi State because it's on his list. You better believe I'm going to be knocking on your door to let him see BSU there and to meet you guys as we process through that, just as, mom, dad, and student. I'm so grateful for the reciprocity that we have, even though, our state conventions are really calling the shots for BCMs, BSUs in their states. There is that assumption, there is that expectation of reciprocity that you're there to receive our students when we send them from Georgia. We're going to be here to receive your students as they come as well. So as a dad, as a pastor, to you two personally, let me just say thank you. Love what you guys are doing. Just so exciting to hear about how God's using your ministry. Know that we're praying for you and we're pulling for you, and God bless you, and just guys, keep up the strong work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chad.
Thanks for being with us today.